Raja is very specific about sticking to the melody as he's composed it, you know? So I wanted to make sure that I made a good first impression. When he was listening to me sing, it's like, he imitated like a trumpet with his mouth, and he said, make it sound like that. And I've never gotten guided like that. There was a moment where I was like, damn, this is actually happening right now. Yeah, it was crazy.
Hello Sid, welcome to Film Companion South. We're going to talk only about this one song, this fantastic song that you sung, composed by Ilaiyaraaja for Psycho, right?
Yeah.
So you enter the studio and he's there.
Yeah.
Just take us through the process. Then what?
Sure. Even before I went to record this song, I got a call from Vasu, who has worked very closely with Raja sir for a long time now, and I just got a call to go meet Raja sir at Prasad Studios. So I walk in, and already it's like a snapshot from the past. You know, like the studio is, I'm guessing exactly how it was or how it's been for a long time. So I already had a certain vibe that settled in right when I walked in. And then he is normally in a room like near the back. So I waited for a few minutes, then they called me to go meet him. And he was, you know, dressed in his all white, sitting there, and it was just like seeing him was like, oh wow. And then I sang a Carnatic song. He wanted to hear me sing something. I sang something in Supabantu Varade, I think. Sang that, and then I left, and then didn't really hear anything, you know. And then maybe like a few months after that, like 2 months after that, I got the call to go record this song. So when I went in to actually record the song, the good thing was I was already familiar with the space because I'd gone once before, so it wasn't a complete shift from what I'm used to. And I'd met Raja sir, hadn't spoken to him, like we didn't really exchange any words that first time, but the other people that worked there I kind of knew, and so, you know, there was a sense of some familiarity for me to start off with. And then we went into the recording, we went into the room where the mic is set up and everything, and there's also a harmonium there. And Vasu sir came in with his phone and he played the voice note of the song. And this is just Raja sir singing with him and the harmonium. It was pretty crazy. I was like, oh wow. Like, because hearing a song in that format, that bare bones, especially with his voice, is crazy because it has all the emotion, it has all the raw, everything, all the textures to it, and you hear the song just in its most bare kind of space, so it really hits you. The only other time I felt that specific emotion is when AR Sir played me his voice note of Talipogade. Back when it was just him again jamming with the piano. So it's on a very visceral level, it kind of grabs you. So I listened to that and I just had it playing on a loop. I was listening, because one thing I'd heard before was that Raja sir is very specific about sticking to the melody as he's composed it, you know? So I wanted to make sure that I made a good first impression. So I listened to it a lot, then me and Vasu sir went over the song a bunch and I practiced it. Then I went to sing it for Raja sir, just in that room.
So this was like a practice session?
We ended up recording the same day, but yeah, before I actually started recording, I went and sang it for him. And it was incredible because as soon as he heard me sing it, his eyes just kind of lit up with this fire where he knew he was onto something, you know? And that was because I was nervous as hell, you know, because I obviously wanted to rise up to the challenge, and having heard that he's particular about how his tunes are sung, I didn't want to go the wrong direction with it. So, but he was excited, and he had this look in his eye like, okay, we can do this, you know. So, so then he made some corrections. He quickly jotted out some lyric corrections as well, and then I practiced it some more, and then soon after that we started recording.
When you say corrections, what do you, like, can you give me an instance of a correction?
Yeah, like, Unna Nenachu, I sang something like that, and he said, la la la, just like straight up, don't add any of the. It was more like taking away any embellishments,
Right.
and also just clarifying exactly what the melody was.
Right.
Ta la 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 la. I was thinking maybe like ta la 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 la, but la 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 la, like a little bit of a dip.
Okay.
And like those, it was very very like small things.
Right.
That made a huge difference.
Right.
We recorded a voice note of him correcting it. Then I listened to that a whole bunch of times, internalized that, really got that down. And I did it in such a way that when we started recording, I feel like I'd really gotten into the aesthetic vocally of what it required.
Right.
Because it was very different from anything I'd done before. On one hand, the range of it never really passes my mid-range. It's
Right.
always in
Right.
that one space. So I had to access a different resonance point of my voice so I could still bring out its tone.
Right.
You know, without losing that, I didn't want it to sound flat. So that took a little bit of practicing. And then also these little kind of like small aesthetic embellishments or lack thereof. Really kind of honing in on what
Right.
the song needed in that way. And, you know, everything, the blueprint was there in what
Right.
he'd given me. So I just had to listen, retain, and then execute. So that was more or less what the process was.
He is supposed to be very particular about phrasing.
Yeah.
The lyrics, you know, in terms of the space that you give, not just between words, but also how you elongate syllables and things
Sure.
like that. Did you get those instructions as well?
Yeah, I think, you know, I work very well by ear. So, and I went in, you know, with this, I knew more or less what to expect and what not to do.
Right.
So, when I heard what he'd done, my thing was like, just stick to the meter he said.
Right.
Down to the smallest thing. Da la 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 la.
Right.
Like he had this one very subtle sangadi, which I made a mistake when I was recording, and I added a little bit more, I think, and he actually ended up retaining what the mistake I'd made.
Okay.
Which was super cool for me because I heard that's unheard of. So that felt pretty good. But otherwise, everything was, you know, like all the phrasing, but even more than the phrasing of it, I think like he had given me one note when he was listening to me singing. Is like he imitated like a trumpet with his mouth, like, and he said, make it sound like that. And I've never gotten guided like that ever in my life.
For a
For a vocal bit.
For a vocal
yeah.
bit, okay.
Yeah. I honestly don't remember exactly what section it was. That whole session is a tad bit of a blur because it was all really surreal for me. From the moment that I saw that glint in his eye to the end of the section, it was just like one like.
How long did the whole thing take? You went in at what time?
I probably went around like 9:30, 10 in the morning.
And when did it get over?
Around 4, maybe
Okay.
5.
So that's your portion, right?
Yeah.
So when you are singing this, and this has always intrigued me because the older composers, when you're talking about MSV or Ilaiyaraaja, they composed by harmonium.
Right.
And they got a bare bones, like you said, a bare bones structure, right?
Yeah.
So I've always wondered how a filmmaker would go and listen to them and you know, like okay, so this is the thing I'm hearing.
Right.
But then when they hear the actual song, it's embellished a millionfold.
Sure.
Because of the orchestration, because of all the other things. Did you, while singing this, get a sense of the final product?
Well, a decent amount of the orchestration and arrangement was already set. I think Raja sir and Mishkin sir had been speaking a lot leading up to it. So they had an idea of what they wanted the song to sound like.
Okay.
The guitars were already there. The string flourishes had not been done yet,
Okay.
I think. But the guitars, in my opinion, is like the driving force behind the song.
Right.
In terms of sonically, it provides...
The string guitar, right?
Yeah, yeah. That part that kind of is like constant through the song is, I think, the most important production element of the song because it's what carries it. And
Right. It's almost like a duet.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think, so that was there. So the shift mentally for me had to occur from when I was practicing it with just the harmonium and myself. Because like I said, after the couple rounds with Raja sir, me and Vasu sir sat and we went over the song a few times. Or not a few, many times. And just like, I kept wanting to practice it over and over. And then once I felt like, okay, I think I got it, that's when we started recording. And then when we started recording, that's the first time I heard the instrumental or like the arrangement.
Okay.
So that took me a second because I'd gotten used to singing it a certain way when it's just me and the harmonium. But when I had to sing it against the track, one, there's a set tempo. You're no longer just going off of the feel of just two people jamming with each other. And obviously, the way in which the arrangement was there at that point, it changes the way you react to a song and you emotionally kind of give yourself to it. So that took, it was an adjustment, of maybe half hour. I had to kind of reorient myself to sing it with this sonic backdrop instead of that. But once I got into it and we got into a flow, it really flowed.
So this background score, was it a track or were there any live instrumentalists there?
No instrumentalists were there. I think the guitar was recorded live. I'm not sure what was programmed versus what was audio.
No, I mean when you were in the booth.
No one else.
No one else.
No,
it's just you singing and the track.
In the headphones, yeah.
Okay.
There was no one else. That would have been really cool though. I've never recorded like that before.
Right. So it wasn't like the old time recordings where everybody was together. It's not like that at all.
No, but I want to do that at some point. I think that requires a whole lot more discipline from a vocalist and spontaneity and really kind of thinking on your feet.
Right.
No, I had the luxury of being able to kind of do take after take after take.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just that you were singing and instead of the harmonium, the track was in your...
Yeah. Right. So, and that was the adjustment that was there because I was listening to something different than what I'd gotten used to for the past hour and a half or...
And Ilaiyaraaja was playing the harmonium.
He did it for when he was correcting me. And then sometimes it was Vasu sir playing and me singing, and then Raja sir correcting me as well. There was a moment where I was like, damn, this is actually happening right now. Yeah, it was crazy.
Okay.
It was crazy.
So you were not around when he composed the score?
No.
So you don't know anything about that?
No.
Okay.
No, and I prefer it that way. I'd love for that to be a nice magical mystery for me to just build castles in my head. I don't think I'd ever want to watch. I've been in the rooms a couple of times when AR sir is arranging some stuff, and that's always eye-opening.
Right.
But I like to, it's just you feel like that's just a realm that is happens in some it's like wizardry in my opinion.
No, you mentioned the last time I spoke to you that Ilaiyaraaja and A.R. Rahman are two ends of the composing spectrum.
Yeah.
What was that like when you kind of went there?
What I realized, I think I'd actually edit what I said a little bit. I don't know if they're so far on, I don't, because what I realized from both is they know exactly what they want. With AR sir, it's never been me in the studio being like, sir, I think I want to try this idea. I would never dare. Because, but it's always him saying, try something in this way. Or you take Talipogade, for example, that was as composed, every little bit of the song. We were going off of his original, but when he came in to record me for some bits, he'd say, try this kind of a run in this section, try, so he knows exactly where he's guiding me, and he knows what I'm vocally capable of.
Right.
And that might inform some of the ideas he has. But in terms of the intention with which he's asking for certain things, I just wanted to clarify that because it's never ever been me in the studio space being, I'm going to just try this random thing and then,
right.
say, sir, this would work. That's that.
No,
but the difference is still in that once Raja sir, from that recording, what I saw, once he commits to a melody and each inflection and everything, he's committed to it.
Right.
I don't think he's really looking to evolve it through the recording process at all.
Okay.
Whereas AR sir seems like he really lives for that process of evolving it in the actual session.
Okay.
In small ways.
Right.
Varying. And Unna Nenachu evolved a lot. He was throwing out a lot of different ideas during that session. Whereas my experience with Raja sir is he wants it to be this way. He's thought of it. He's conceptualized it. He's envisioned every last bit of it.
Except that Sangati that you added.
I wouldn't even say I added it. I made a mistake.
Okay.
And he said, yeah, that I think, and I don't, maybe it could even be that the mistake, what I thought was a mistake was actually me chancing upon what he actually had sung. Because his way of singing is super subtle. And that's something I really realized through this recording, is that he'll have these very, very subtle nuances and embellishments to the way especially the way he ends phrases, that, especially me coming from a Carnatic space, like, you know, it's Sangri heavy. So,
like, can you just sing a bit?
From the song?
Right, like, so you said, like, the way he sang it versus...
Yeah, ta la 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 la, like that, like and I can't even do it the way he does it. He does it with such a weight, but it's still, like, I don't even know, like, exactly. But he leaves these ends of phrases in such a way that there is a punctuation, but it still allows it to keep going.
Right.
I had to really learn that, because the way I punctuate ends of phrases is either very, like, done, or I draw them out. You know, so this is...
Again, like, let's take Rahman, right? Again, aren't you still bound by what he wants?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you say, when I like to punctuate phrases, you're talking about your compositions?
Or just when I sing live sometimes.
Okay.
You know, I take some liberties.
Okay.
And that's where I think, when I finally recorded with Raja Sir, I realized that the process isn't all that different.
Right.
There is, and again, I went into it, when I went in to record for AR Sir for the first time, it was pure adrenaline.
Right.
And nothing else. And that's what he captured.
Right.
Because it was by no means a perfect vocal performance. Like, I listened back to that and be like, oh wow, but it's raw. And you know, it's almost like he was just time capsuling the way this young college kid was feeling at this time, and he basically used me like an instrument beautifully.
Right.
And he used me like an instrument the way they use instruments in jazz.
Right.
I feel like Raja Sir used me like an instrument the way they would in like classical like music, where it was through composed, everything was to the T. There was, you know, maybe that's the difference.
Did you feel, given the way you sing and also given the improvisations that you do in classical concerts, did this feel a little restrictive at any point?
Never felt restrictive. It did feel like a new experience, though.
Okay.
It felt like, and again, I mean, if I went into it being like, I only want to sing the way I sing and nothing else, then yeah, I would have felt very restrictive. But I went into it being like, I want to explore this realm of creativity and vocalizing. You know, I was ready for it.
Because it is very difficult to execute what somebody else has imagined exactly the same way.
Sure.
Yeah.
But when you do it, what comes of that is quite beautiful, I think.
Right.
I think, again, and now that I'm also composing for films and recording other vocalists, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, like when I've been recording, like there's one song I recorded, Shakti. This is just a song just she's sung. There's moments where I wanted to hear her artistry in it. So I said, you know, do your thing.
Right.
Other moments I want it to sound exactly like what I composed. And I think, I'd like to think that my perspective is now, post working with Raja Sir, kind of this combination of both the worlds, or at least understanding both the worlds and seeing how they overlap.
Right.
You know, and there is a decent amount of overlap because, like I said, again, both of these giants know what they want. Right. And I think I said this in our last interview, but they know how to get to that point.
Right.
They're just different processes. But it is not restrictive. It is requires a different kind of discipline.
Right.
And that discipline that I acquired through the process of working with him and has definitely very, very positively impacted the way I approach music as a whole, whether it be composing, singing for other people, and Carnatic music.
Right.
You know, like a lot of these times when you sing a composition in a Carnatic concert, if you just sing it as composed from start to finish with no frills, those are sometimes, like I had a concert the other day, I sang Moksha Mugalada, which is Ilaiyaraaja Kirti's Haramati. Again, I didn't improvise on it at all. I sang the song. And that song felt like it was the most transcendent of the concert. And I think that perspective of how to even do that and find the beauty in doing it, not looking at that like, oh, that it lacks prowess.
Right.
It actually requires a lot of restraint. And so, you know, I think that working with Raja sir really offered me that perspective.
That's amazing. When you listen to this finished song
Yeah.
versus the other processes that you've been through, like because you worked with a bunch of composers, what was this like? Like, was there any one bit that totally amazed you, like took you by surprise?
The whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing is, it's an amazing song, but I'm saying, is there any one particular thing that you said, wow, that I didn't see that coming?
I think in the beginning.
Okay.
I'll play it. I think like this part.
You know, I'm actually making this out now because I'm hearing you speak, and when I hear you there, it just sounds, you sound
a lot softer. And I think the yaro, that bit, it incites like a very deep emotional reaction without me having to have done anything that, I don't want to say exaggerated, but without much emphasis, you know.
But that's also the flight of the tune, like it just goes up, right?
Yeah, and I think I'm used to big vocal performances.
Right.
This was just
like you said, minimalistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. You used that word, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it just the flow of it. But that section always gets me. The second time it comes around, the melody changes. And it lands on that. Those small things, you know, like after. You know, I really got into his music in college. I've said that, and after our last interview, I continued digging. This song came on in the car. We were driving somewhere, and it was like in the BGM section. And the song had just come out, and I wasn't all the way familiar with the strings and all that because I wasn't there when I initially recorded. So I was like, "Oh, sounds like a really nice Raja sir song," not being aware that it was the one I'd sung. And then my voice comes out. I was like, "Oh wow."
That's
And it just was like, it felt like, and it felt like you said. I don't think it's a vintage Raja sir song, but it had all the makings of what makes his music so great.
No, I think it's amazing simply because it sounds like a lot of his elements, but he's just completely adapted to this
to now
to the now.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a Raja song, but it's also like a very now song.
Sure.
It just blew my mind when I heard it first.
Yeah, and I think another reason I was so excited to be able to sing for him because I feel like I've been a part of a good amount of popular songs in the last few years,
right.
And to allow my voice to live in this context and breathe through this perspective, it just felt special. It felt like a coming together of generations in a way, and that was really cool for me as well.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi everyone, this is Sid Sriram. You are watching me on Film Companion South. Please do share, like, and subscribe.